Johnson Leung, the head of regional transport at Jefferies Hong Kong. Just to say thanks for coming in, Johnson. I just want to ask first of all for the viewers, you've worked at Maersk, you've worked at Hutchison Port Holdings, you went to Maersk Shipping Academy, and you've got an INSEAD MBA, so you're pretty qualified to give a good round view of the entire industry.
That's the only thing I know.
Well, you know a lot about it. So, without being too nice to you, I ask, you have changed your view significantly in the last few months, from bullish to bearish. Why?
So the main change is more on the container side. The last years we see a very strong recovery for container earning. It turned out that the container shipping industry see a record earning, and this year we see it's definitely going down to a down cycle. And we now are worried that this year the earning could actually or losses could match the level that we saw in year 2009. So that's the worry that what makes change. But for tanker and dry bulk, we've been quite cautious. But tanker recently it's actually get a lot worse than what I thought.
Now, what's the trigger? I know that the IEA is a bit of a blow, isn't it? But what's the trigger for you saying that it's significantly getting worse?
Yeah, well, it's, the IEA release is actually quite bearish for tankers because when they release the oil reserve from the countries, then they don't need to import it. So there's a less demand for the seaborne trade. So U.S., for example, based on the release figures that's projected, so U.S. this month will import 10% less crude oil. So that will have an impact on the tanker segment because that's already suffering overcapacity.
You never think of the impact that would have on that kind of industry. You just think of the oil price, which is quite interesting to hear that. What would it take for you to say, John, I'm bullish again?
Well,
by the smile, I can imagine a lot of factors that are not going to happen.
Yes, it will take many things, but I think one thing that will make me slightly bit more positive is that we see massive scrapping or laying up of ships. So the issue is that the root of the problem is overcapacity. So I think to deal with it is to solve the capacity issue. So I think for the ship owner to scrap the ships, some of the older ships to send into scrapyard, and also for the ship that actually is not old enough to be sent to scrapyard, if they idle it, not to use it, I think that will help to sustain the freight market, at least stop it from falling further.
Is that going to happen at all?
I think it's probably maybe by the end of this year, so we'll see a bit more layup. Dry bulk, we see some scrapping already, so we probably see a bit more pace of picking up if the ship owners see the sector's not improving. But then before that happen, of course, from the active investors' point of view, things will turn very bad already.
So if they don't do it, things will turn bad already. I mean, what happens then? The whole industry just collapses, or that's too dramatic?
It could, well, for dry bulk and tanker, you can say that they're very close to trough. But then the issue is how long the trough will last. So if they don't do any drastic method to deal with it, so the trough could last for multiple years. We have seen it in the 70s and 80s. So we hope that we won't see the repetition this time.
Interesting. My father was in shipping all his life, and he was, of course, based in Liverpool. That entire industry has just gone to the dogs, if you like. And again, it's all about China and Asia. So if this industry here is suffering as bad, this changes the entire dynamic for the industry itself.
Yeah, well, the story for Liverpool is more about the switch from a more high-cost location to a more lower-cost location, I presume. But then, shipping all exists. But it's just a matter of the ship owner make more money, or actually they have to suffer a few years or make much less money. So there's a law of average where usually you have a very big profit in the last decade. So maybe this decade, on the law of average, you have a very low return. Just average out, yeah.
Rates are the key area, aren't they? Rates are falling, and that's the bottom line.
Yes, the tanker freight rate we saw a small blip in June, but then since then it's been falling again. So dry bulk rates kind of hovering below the break-even. We think that actually now it's probably closer to the short-term peak. For containers, still falling. So all three main shipping segments now we see the freight rate actually in a very, very weak state.
Johnson Leung, always a pleasure to have you in, head of regional transport there for Asia at Jefferies. Thanks for coming in.